We
are
cultivate.
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 We are cultivate.
Hello and welcome to Ye Olde Crime, where we discuss the funny, strange, and obscure crimes of yesteryear. I am your host, Lindsay Valenti, and with me is my sister and co-host, Maddie Stengel.
Hello.
Well, hi dear ho there.
Hey there, ho there. How's it going?
It's going. We saw each other today.
We did. We've been doing that more often. It's kind of nice.
It is kind of nice.
So being like sisters or something, you know?
What the hell?
What the hell? Who'd have thought?
Not me. Well, at the time we're recording this, it is not a new month, but it will be at the time that this episode comes out, which means it is time to shout out our subscribers over on Buy Me a Coffee.
Yay!
Thank you to our lovely supporters, Charlie, Elizabeth, Sarah, and our newly minted supporter, Cheryl.
Yay! Thank you. You guys are the best.
Thank you, everyone. If you would like to support the show, whether that's a one-time donation or become a monthly supporter, you can do so over on Buy Me a Coffee. We have a link in our show notes, and we send a fun little gift to people who are interested in supporting the show. So,
yeah,
if that's enticing to you at all.
It better be.
I mean, I like free shit.
Same.
So, I thought that I would start the month by doing one of my favorite things, which is to do an episode that involves me having to speak French.
Oh, no.
Unlike the episode where I did not translate anything from Welsh.
Which is like one of the hardest languages, too.
Yeah. I was smart. Even though I did it at 12:30 in the morning, I made sure I translated all the things. So if I miss something, I have no one but myself to blame. Truly.
If you missed one of them, no, you didn't. Everybody shut up.
You heard nothing. So today, we will be discussing L'Auberge Rouge, or the Red Inn.
Ooh, sounds mysterious and sexy.
So sexy.
Red. Ooh.
Information was pulled from the following sources: a 2023 Alcatron article, 2020 The Daily Evergreen article by Grace Lapierre, 2019 Mag Communes article, 2017 The Connexion article by Lama Hodeb, 2016 Jerry Walton post, 2016 Valeur article by Philippe Delomois, 2015 Board Game Geek news article by W. Eric Martin, 2015 Unknown Gender History post, 1936 South Wales Argus article, Anecdote Trip article, France on Two Wheels by Adam Ruck, Genia Star, Historical Serial Killers by Don Ralph. Okay, here's the hard one.
Ooh.
Chronobas, la chronologie universelle. I nailed it. And 3 Wikipedia links. Thank you, as always, to Carrie Ann for her research assistance for this episode. Yay. And links to all of these articles will be included in the show notes. Want to be social with us? You can see pics from this week's episode, bonus content, and funny memes on X at Ye Olde Crime Pod, or on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, and YouTube at Ye Olde Crime Podcast.
Speaking of YouTube, we have a special playlist just for our Can You Crack the Cramp Word segments with our guest podcasters to see who can correctly guess the meaning of some obscure Victorian slang terms. If that's your thing, check it out.
All right. Let's see how well I can do with my French in this episode. That was just a teaser.
It was impeccable. I was immediately transported to Paris.
I know
Gave
you
her.
were. I know you were.
Yeah.
Located in southern France is the commune of Linares in Ardèche, home of the L'Auberge Rouge. Linares, which as of 2021 is home to a population of 209, is built more than 1,000 meters above sea level, boasting unique geography due to its low volcanic craters. Depending on the time of year, it can either be covered in snowdrifts or bog-filled maars or swamps.
So kind of like Minnesota.
Yeah, like if Minnesota was on a mountain.
Yeah.
Minnesota mountain.
The mini mountain.
Aw. The inn, which was originally known as L'Auberge du Pérobet, was a common resting place for weary travelers throughout the region in the 1800s.
Nice.
Given its location on the high road between Le Puy and Aubenas at an altitude of 1,300 meters on the Ardèche Plateau, it shouldn't surprise you to learn that the owners of the inn, a couple by the names of Pierre and Marie Martin, struggled financially to provide for not only themselves, but their daughters as well.
Oh God, do they have like a Von Trapp size family?
No.
It's like they're 27 children and like 3 sheepdogs with no sheep.
It's just a one-room house. They all just sleep in a dog pile on top of one another.
It's the actual Willy Wonka with like all the family members in a bed in the middle of nowhere.
Minnesota mountain. Pierre Martin was born on July 27th, 1776, and married his wife, Marie Brézy, around 1794 when he was 18. Marie was born on September 20th, 1777, making her 17 at the time of their marriage.
So that's not too bad. Fairly close in age.
Yeah, he's
Right?
just a year older than her, so.
Way to not be creepy. Good on you.
I know. Great start. Their first daughter, Marie, was born not long after their marriage on January 22nd, 1795. She passed away that same year, so I'm not sure if she died during childbirth or later in infancy. There was
Yeah,
no like
kind of be
dead baby.
whatever.
Yeah.
Aw.
Their second daughter, Jean-Marie, was born on December 23rd, 1798, and their third and final daughter, Marguerite, was born on October 20th, 1805.
Oh, okay. So I mean, it's not that big of a family, but 2 more mouths to feed is 2 more mouths. So
Yeah.
I get it.
Pierre had started out as a poor farmer, but over the years, he and his wife were able to work hard to save up enough money that they were able to transform Pierre's father's farm into a resting place for weary travelers.
They were the first hipsters, you know, making a
Yes.
hobby farm.
They were like, we're going to take this old shack.
It turned into a hobby home.
I love it. A new building and outbuildings were built, and the year that Marguerite was born, in 1805, the Martins started operating the inn.
Nice. That's aggressive timing for the mom, though. Like, you just shot out a baby. Here, start manual work. Like, start working a new job.
Yeah, well, and I don't know, like, how much she was helping to, like, build and get everything set up, too, before they opened.
Like, did she work the counter? Did she cook for everybody? Like,
We'll get into it.
okay.
Now, I couldn't find exact details, but the couple ran the inn with the help of a servant named Jean Rochette, who was born
Okay.
in 1785 and nicknamed Fetiche, or Fetish in English.
Okay. An
Yeah, I don't like
interesting
that.
nickname for somebody who works at a hotel.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Pierre was known by the locals as someone with a less than friendly disposition.
Oh, okay. So let's welcome people to our house.
Yeah. In fact, his neighbors outright feared him and accused him of bullying.
Oh, great. Even better. Did he want to be a landlord after this too? Like, it's really in the right
Yeah.
industry there.
Now, this assessment of his character was just further justified when he started using henchmen to get what he wanted.
No, henchman.
Yeah.
Did he put an ad out?
Hey guys, come to the inn.
Grumpy man, grumpy innkeeper looking for henchmen.
Inquire within. Now, it's important to note that during this time in French history, the country was enduring a lot of conflict. And without going into like a super long history lesson, I'm going to
Mhm.
try and condense a lot of information in the next 3 paragraphs of my notes.
Okay.
So you won't have to remember any of this for the quiz, but it will give you some context as to all the things that are going on behind the scenes up until this point in time,
Nice.
and even past this point in time.
Okay.
So, within 10 years of the Martins taking over the inn, or opening it, Napoleon I abdicated once again after his defeat at Waterloo, which returned Louis the 18th once more to the throne. The second restoration was fierce between the anti-Bonapartists and the ultra-royalist elites, leading to
Mm.
the White Terror, which was very close to evolving into an all-out civil war.
Oh, just that.
Cash. Not to mention the fact that foreign troops, namely those from England and Austria, set up shop in southern France from 1815 to 1818 to ensure that the royalists didn't do anything to stir the pot. So people
Oh,
who were loyal to the crown.
yeah.
And this move, which was approved in the Second Treaty of Paris that was signed in November of 1815, allowed the French police to regroup and reorganize. So at least that was good. They're like, we're
Okay.
going to try and get some more sense of order going on.
Yeah. What a really horrible time.
Well, we're not even done yet.
Oh, great.
I still got 2 more paragraphs.
Oh no. Oh no, that was just one.
That was just
Oh,
the one paragraph.
oh no.
Patriots who were suspected of committing atrocities against royalists during the quote unquote 100 days found themselves severely punished in a court of law. So the nobility, namely Louis XVIII, slowly
Mhm.
began to reclaim power after dissolving the Chamber of Deputies of the departments in September of 1816, which made a number of decisions that would favor the return of a full sovereign state. Of
Yeah.
course he did.
Right.
However, the government made the decision to dissolve it altogether to instead institute a moderate and liberal assembly. So they were like, yeah, this chamber of deputies and of the departments that you were like refilling with people who are loyal to you, no, no, no.
Mhm.
We're going to get rid of all of that and we're going to start our own new thing.
Okay.
So, over the ensuing years, with the death of Louis XVIII and the installment of his brother, Charles X, the monarchy would oscillate between ultra royalists to public elections in June of 1830 that would disavow the king, to Charles making a bid via force to reissue power in July of 1830, so the following month,
Mhm.
which led to the July Revolution and his abdication of the throne to Louis-Philippe I on August 6th, 1830. So he was like, I gotta bounce. Here you go. Louis-Philippe's increasingly conservative reign increased industry, which was good, but
Mhm.
also resulted in the growing impoverishment of the members of the working class. So the economic crisis, plus a number of scandals that made the monarchy look not so great, ended in another revolution in 1848 that saw the abdication and exile of Louis-Philippe.
Yeah.
So lots and lots of stuff going on.
Yeah.
So needless to
Jeez.
say, things weren't great in France.
No, I don't think I'd like to live there for general. Like, there's kind of no good. You can't really be a part of any group. Like, you're kind of
Yeah,
threatened no matter what you choose.
you're either the villain or you're
The
the good
victim.
guy, but then the next minute you could be the good guy or the villain. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's just a teeter-totter.
Yeah, no thanks.
So even in the small town of Ardèche, things were trickling down to their neck of the woods from Paris.
Okay.
So industry did help develop the area, such as the opening of mines and the construction of the railway. However, these new luxuries did very little to benefit the locals.
Of course. Because why would it help them out?
So in this small neck of the woods, clashes continued to take place between the liberals and the royalists.
Mhm.
And the conflicts were made even worse when it came to collecting wood in the royal forests, which seems very silly until I break it down for you.
This sounds like something they'd be petty about.
So, the forests, as I
Mhm.
said, were royal forests, which means that
Of
they
course they were.
belonged to the crown. And although peasants were typically allowed to take wood from said forests,
Mhm.
instead, their access had been restricted in order to supply and support the sawmills, which were run by, you guessed it, the royalists.
Of course.
And in response to that, the sawmills would often be the victims of arson.
Yeah.
Which brings us back to Pierre, who was a known ultra royalist.
Ultra royalist. Great.
He was like, I love the king, I love the monarchy, all hail the king.
He's my guy. He came to me in a dream.
So Pierre provided a number of services to the nobles as they returned from exile following the king's return to power. And thanks to his influence, they were able to purchase back their land that had been taken from them at a
Mm,
significantly lower cost.
okay.
And it's even been speculated that he favored quote unquote woodcutters, aka sawmills and the royalists.
No.
What? And it was noted that he wasn't the only political activist in his family. His wife, Marie, even hid a priest following the revolution of 1789.
She hit him, like, physically hit him?
She hid him, like she squirreled him away.
Oh, I thought she just, like, hit
She
a
punched
priest
a
or something.
priest.
Yeah, she just, like, punched a priest in public and be like, "Oh my god."
She's like, fuck you, priest. And just punched him in the
She's
face.
she's just assaulting priests. That was her political that was her stance. Just gonna
Down with the papacy.
That's so crazy. Okay, she hid them.
Yes, she hid a priest, as in hide. And people were like, oh God, why? So, but it wasn't just for political reasons that members in the local community chose to dislike the Martins.
Okay.
It also had to do with the fact that even with the abject poverty that the majority of the people in the town lived in, the Martins seemed to be doing quite well for themselves.
Mm.
This was thanks in part to Marie's cooking, which was a sore spot given that many of the farmers in the area had to fight tooth and nail just to survive.
Yeah, I bet. Like, they already don't like them, and they're already not really people that seem like they wanna share or anything,
Mm-hmm.
and they have what you've been, like, killing yourself over.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be pissed too.
On October 12th, 1831, the Martins' quote-unquote good fortunes started to take a turn.
Uh-oh.
On that day, a local horse dealer named Antoine Enjolras, who has also been referred to as Jean-Antoine Enjolras, showed up at the inn in search of a missing heifer. He was
Oh,
like, I lost my cow. I have no idea where it went. It's my favorite cow.
she's the best. Give her to me.
Interestingly, Antoine also went missing, which
Oh,
prompted local authorities to start looking into his disappearance.
yeah. He didn't just like run away with the cow.
Because he couldn't even find it.
Yeah.
His body was found
Mm.
near the Alye River after he
No.
had been missing for 2 weeks.
Bummer.
Upon his discovery on October 26th, a few kilometers from the inn, it was noted that his skull had been bashed in and his knee crushed. But robbery didn't appear to be the motive, given that he still had his wallet and money on his person.
That would be terrifying. To see somebody get like beat up that intensely for what you
Seemingly no
can,
reason.
yeah, like you can't figure out the reason.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no. No.
Mm-mm.
I hate it.
The day before the discovery of Antoine's body, on October 25th, a man named Claude Page went to the police stating that he had seen Pierre, Jean, their servant, and a
Mhm.
third person that could not be identified use a cart to transport Antoine's body from the inn to the river to dispose of it.
Oh.
And this third person was suspected of being Pierre's nephew, André.
Yeah, that's not great.
No,
That's pretty damning that
yeah.
he's related to you.
Now, upon hearing this, Judge Etienne Villa Duclos opened an investigation, and Pierre and his nephew André were questioned and arrested that same day for murder. So the
Dang.
same day that Claude went to the police, they went and interviewed them and were like, all right, you're
Yep, you
coming
did
with
it.
us. And the following week, on November 1st, Jean Rochette was also arrested, and the official investigation into the crimes began. Now, despite the gender beliefs of the time, Marie herself was also arrested the following day on November 2nd, under suspicion that she had taken part in the murder.
That would have been really scandalous then, right?
hmm
Like, how could a woman be evil if she's not a witch?
After word got out about the arrests, reports started pouring in to the investigators about a myriad of other crimes that the Martins had supposedly taken part in.
Oh, man.
It was shared that over the course of the last 20 years that they had taken part in over 50 murders
Oh,
via everything from knocking the person over the head or poisoning them to a number of disappearances,
my
several
God.
attempted murders, sexual assaults, and just as many thefts.
Oh, my gosh. That's horrific. And people knew this for a while.
So they were arrested at the end of October and beginning of November in 1831. It took investigators until February 11th, 1833, to
Oh,
sort through all of the allegations
my
before they
God.
finally decided on convicting the couple and Jean of 2 counts of murder, 4 counts of attempted murder, and 6 counts of theft.
Oh, my gosh.
So it took a year and a half.
That's crazy.
Now, since the bulk of the allegations took place prior to the discovery of Antoine's remains, many of the charges ended up being dropped
Oh, that sucks.
because they're like, it has nothing to do with this case.
But it did.
But this wouldn't stop future witnesses from using their day in court to state them in front of the jury.
Ooh. Okay.
So it wouldn't be until a year and a half later that the trial of the quote-unquote 4 monsters would actually begin on June 18th, 1833, in the commune of Privas. The murder was quickly noted as the Red Inn affair in the media, with the belief being that Antoine had been killed as he was being robbed, although evidence
Mm,
showed that he was still in possession of his wallet when his body was discovered.
right.
But, semantics. The devil's in the details.
Right.
One of the witnesses at the trial was a man named Laurent Chaz, who is described as a local non-speaking French beggar and alcoholic. So what that means
Great.
is he spoke a dialect that had to be translated for the court.
Oh no. But because of his slur.
But because it was a dialect that wasn't familiar with the people in the area, it had to be translated.
Hmm.
So kind of bear that in mind.
Okay.
And although perhaps not the best witness, because he's an alcoholic,
Right.
he did claim that he was present at the inn on the night of Antoine's murder.
Okay.
Laurent had been thrown out of the inn when it became apparent that he did not have the means to pay for a room.
Mm.
So instead, he sheltered in a shed from which he bore witness to the Martins murdering Antoine, stating that he witnessed them pouring molten lead into the victim's mouth.
No. That's
Yeah.
so scary. And very Game of Thrones of them.
Right?
No, thank you.
Marie's lawyers claimed that she had given him some herbal tea shortly before he had gone missing. She had given it to him after he got sick from drinking too much, and that he
Mhm.
passed away from natural causes.
Of course.
Now, as to why his body was discovered by the river, they had thrown him there after fearing they would be accused of killing him. That's what she and her lawyer maintained.
Which could be something if they didn't have all the other shit on them.
Mhm.
Like all the other horrendous crimes that would definitely lead up to something akin to murder.
At the time of the trial, a French civil code that had been put into place by Napoleon Bonaparte in 1804 was still in place. Known as Code Napoleon, it allowed the use of hearsay evidence,
Oh, of course.
which in
Nope.
this case ended up being overwhelming and less than factual. Much of the testimony had to do with the general dislike of Pierre, rumors, and locals' jealousy over Martin's large fortune.
Dang.
Over 100 witnesses testified during the trial. And
Oh my
even the act of cannibalism was mentioned,
god.
with people alleging that Marie, quote, used corpse pieces to make stews, human hands were seen boiling on her stove, corpses, even of young children, were cooked in her ovens, walls and floors were covered in blood, and sickening smells were constantly spewing forth from the inn's smoky chimney, end quote.
What? They were complimenting how great of a cook she was in the beginning.
Mhm. The most damning testimony came from Jean's own defense lawyer.
Mm.
He stated in court that his client was a murderer, but, it wasn't his fault because the Martins made him do it because he was a quote unquote simpleton.
What?
So, this type of talk pretty much sealed his and the Martins' fates.
Yep.
Fun fact,
Mm.
throughout this whole trial, it was never mentioned that at the time Antoine's body had been discovered, the Martins, who at this point were in their late 50s,
Mm-hmm.
had already retired from managing the inn in 1830
Oh,
and had placed it in the care of a manager.
so it's not even their problem anymore.
No, they weren't even there. During
Damn.
summation, The president of the court supported the prosecution, ignoring the defense's argument that Laurent's testimony shouldn't be trusted, considering his reputation as a drunk.
Wow.
And when the verdict was read on June 25th, 1833, 7 days after the start of the trial, it stated that André, Pierre's nephew, was found not guilty, but the other three were found guilty of murdering Antoine.
What?
And it seemed that the testimonies regarding their supposed acts of cannibalism and potential other murders weren't being pursued or considered, just the murder of Antoine.
Okay. Kind of doubt that, though, if there were so many crazy stories.
And while André was acquitted and released, the Martins and Jean were sentenced to death. So, an appeal of cassation, or a review of the judgments, by lawyers was denied, and
Oh.
King Louis-Philippe refused to grant them a pardon.
Yeah, because he wanted to stay in favor.
Mhm.
And too many people hated them.
On October 1st, 1833, the Martins and Jean were taken via cart to, oh shit, there is one word that I didn't translate. I'm just going to go with mers. And the following day, they were taken via cart once more to the scene of the crime, the Red Inn itself. It was there at noon, as the bell of La Valette rang, before a crowd of up to 30,000 spectators, that the three were executed via guillotine.
Wow.
Now, the following was noted of the execution. Quote, "This day, October 2nd, 1833, at noon, we, Martin Jean Baptiste Garon Fils, clerk of the Justice of the Peace of the Canton of Coucouron, district of La Jontière, department of Ardèche, consequently, in an execution of the indictment made to us by the king's prosecutor at the Assize Court of Ardèche, dated September 27th last, and by virtue of Article 378 of the Code of Criminal Procedure and Article 52 of the Regulation of June 18th, 1811, we are transported to the place of Pays-Roubaix, commune of Lanars, canton of Coucouron, on the place of execution below, where we saw executed to death alternately 1. Marie Briss, wife of Pierre Martin, aged 54, housewife, born and residing at the place of Pays-Roubaix, commune of Lanars. 2. Pierre Martin, known as Pierre Dublanc, aged 60, owner, born and residing in Pays-Roubaix, in the aforementioned commune of Lanars. 3. Finally, Jean Rochette, aged 48, farmer, born in Mazon, residing in Pays-Roubaix, in the aforementioned commune of Lanars. All three sentenced to death by judgment of the Assize Court of the Department of Ardèche. End quote. Worst of all, following their execution, a celebratory ball took place in front of the inn.
What?
Yeah.
That's dark.
Thankfully, the three were later buried in the town cemetery.
God.
Interestingly, at the time of their deaths, the Martins were said to have about 30,000 gold francs, or around $883,000, or 925,000 pounds today.
That's crazy. Yeah. A whole village would kill them for that.
It's been noted, but not corroborated, that Jean's final words were, quote, "Masters be damned, what didn't you make me?" End quote. Many believed that this confirmed his guilt and also suggested that he and the Martins had killed others, not just Antoine.
Yeah.
Fun fact, the day after their execution, their heads were stolen.
Nah.
Although death masks were later made from photos that had been taken at the time.
Man.
And they can still be seen today at the Crozati Museum in Pionville, if that's something that interests you.
But just death masks of people that were stolen.
The interest in the Red Inn affair didn't abate following the executions. 3 years later, in 1886, a book was published titled Le Coup Yours by Paul Delbeny, the journalist and editor-in-chief of the Patriote du L'Ardèche. Of the trial, he noted, quote, "Then the legend, as it always comes with events which have deeply moved the populations, came to graft itself onto history and bring it its more or less considerable contingent of stories and revelations, which sometimes merge with the facts, which are better established or retained by justice as such." End quote. And in 1893, 60 years after the trial, the following was published regarding the case. Quote, "The notorious wayside inn at Pays-Roubaix, which during a period of 26 years was the scene of innumerable murders of travelers, is for sale. This former death trap is situated in a wild spot among the Ardèche mountains. At the time of the murders, it was kept by a man and his wife, assisted by a servant. The crimes of the trio were eventually discovered, and they all perished, but the exact number of travelers they had killed was never found. The price asked is only 100 francs, 1,000 times less, perhaps, than has been made by the many authors who have exploited the horrible legend of Pays-Roubaix." End quote.
Mm.
In an edition of the South Wales Argus, they note, quote, "Lonely travelers who put up at the inn never reached their destination, and it is said that their bodies were burned in the big ovens of the inn. Visitors can eat at tables where the victims sat. The place is decidedly weird, as the long shadows of evening creep up with walls and along the wide of the wooden staircase. Here is the ideal setting for a ghost story, and the rare sound of footsteps of a horse approaching the inn give the diners an eerie thrill. The innkeeper grew rich through his crimes, and gave handsome dowries to his 2 daughters when they married. The incidents of the story, the dowry, and even the fact that one of the victims was a Jewish merchant are similar to those of the famous play, The Bells. The kitchen in the inn, with its huge oven and clanking door, set in an irregular recess in a wall formed of great slabs of rock, makes a perfect back scene for drama." End quote.
Hmm.
Several additional books have been written about the case, including the novel L'Auberge Rouge du Père Hebel by Jules Bourgeois, serial The Crimes of Pays-Roubaix by Victor Chauvet, which was published in Lion Républicain, and L'Auberge Rouge, L'énigme de Pays-Roubaix, 1833, or The Red Inn, The Enigma of Pays-Roubaix, 1833, by Michael Peyramore. In 1966, the book Pays-Roubaix was published by Félix Villiers and Charles Almeret, who decided to re-examine the case and came to the conclusion that even with the questionable testimonies, they believed that the Martins were still guilty of the crime, although probably not the cannibalism.
So they didn't have blood-stained walls all the time?
They were like, I don't think this is real. Another scholar named Thierry Boudignon falls into the opposite camp in his work
Mm.
L'Auberge Rouge, believing that the trial was a miscarriage of justice, given the unreliable testimonies, which were mainly rumors and hearsay.
Yeah.
He firmly believes that the trial was a way to make an example out of the couple, and that Laurent's testimony was twisted to ensure that they and Jean appear guilty of the crime. Because remember, his testimony had to be translated.
Yeah, it's true.
The memory of the Red Inn and its gruesome history has been kept alive thanks in part to the big screen. On October 19th, 1951, the film L'Auberge Rouge was released in theaters, and decades later, on December 5th, 2007, another film titled The Red Inn would also be released. In 2015, designer Nicolas Robert released a card game named The Red Inn, designed for 1 to 4 players, in which you play as a member of the innkeeper family, and you must play to dispose of the guests to earn francs, or French money.
Oh my gosh.
Each round, the player must choose to either bribe a guest into being an accomplice, build an annex under which to hide the bodies, kill or bury a victim, or
Gee.
launder money.
Oh my god.
And at the end of the game, the player with the most money is declared the winner.
Jeez.
If you want to experience the Red Inn for yourself, it is now a tourist site and has been renovated into a museum dedicated to the business and what the daily lives of its owners would have looked like.
Dang.
In fact, period furniture occupies the museum, and very little changes have been made to the structure itself. So it looks pretty much how it would have looked at the time.
That's crazy.
It is open year-round, and the self-guided tour lasts around 20 minutes. The tour, as noted on Anecdotrip, includes the kitchen, the dining room, a closet near the stairs where Jean supposedly hid before knocking out the customers, a small room where guests would have stayed that contains large wooden furniture, thick walls, and tiny windows, and the bread oven where Marie supposedly burned the bodies of their victims.
Jeez.
And outside the inn, a stone also marks the spot where the guillotine once stood. And although you cannot stay at the inn today, a hotel, restaurant, and gas station was built next door in the 1960s
Of
that you can
course.
frequent should you choose.
Funny.
Now, I did want to touch on the lives of the daughters,
Okay.
Jean-Marie and Marguerite.
They actually had information on the daughters and women in general?
Very, very little.
That's crazy, though.
I did not see any note of either sister getting married, although it was alleged in some sources that each was given a large dowry.
Okay.
But
Maybe they had to, like, change their identity.
maybe. But Jean-Marie lived to the age of 83, passing away in 1881, and Marguerite did not have an official death date, just that she passed away sometime after 1851, at which time she would have been 46.
Oh, that's young.
I have no idea how much longer she lived after the age of 46, just that at some point after that age, she passed away. And finally, the French expression ne pas être sorti l'auberge, or not to be out of the woods yet, is said to refer to the Red Inn affair, although the saying itself predates the Martins and the trial.
Dang. That's crazy.
And that is the Red Inn affair.
Dark.
Yeah. Hopefully my French was acceptable. I tried.
You did.
If you love the show, the best way to support us is to leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, Good Pods, CastBox, Podcast Addict, and or Audible. Links to all of these are in our show notes, or if you're already listening on one of these platforms, you know what to do.
Oh, and while you're at it, shoot us a question you'd like to hear us answer on the pod. We'll give you a special shout out and address your burning questions all at the same time. The weirder, the better. Submit them via link in our show notes or shoot them to us in our DMs.
Are you looking for your next true crime podcast? Do you crave stories that have mystery and suspense? Well, look no further. Introducing Love and Murder, the podcast that dives deep into the world of relationships gone horribly wrong. Every week, I take you on a journey through the dark side of love, where passion turns into obsession, families become enemies, and romance turns to murder. From mysterious mysteries to suspenseful suspense, I dive deep into cases of love gone wrong. So why should you listen to Love and Murder? Because this is not just another true crime podcast. We're your partners in crime.
Not guilty.
Your storytellers, and your weekly dose of suspenseful entertainment. How many times have I said suspenseful? So what are you waiting for? Join the Love and Murder family and become part of the Lamb community. Tune in every week for a new episode that will keep you hooked. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button now. Love and Murder, because you're either someone's last love or their first murder.
Love and Murder, available on all major podcast platforms. Not for true crimers under 18. Must be an apple juice drinking enthusiast, but not really. Side effects include enjoying another true crime podcast, becoming a lamb, learning logic and how to deal with your problems in a healthy manner, and not turn into murder. Waiting for the next episode of Love and Murder to drop every week. Visit our website at www.murderandlove.com.
And remember, all love and no murder. See you soon.
And this week's podcast plug is the Love and Murder Heartbreak to Homicide podcast. This weekly podcast delves into true crime stories of marriage turned to murder, domestic abuse cases, family crimes, deadly love triangles, and overall criminals who thought they could get away with murder. Host Kai retells true crime stories in her own unique way, but always has the victim, their family, and friends in mind. It's part of the Darkcast Network, and we will have a link to her show in the show notes.
Nice.
And this week's listener question comes from Carrie Ann, and she would like to know, you have been given unlimited funds to create an attraction where you live. What would it be?
Oh, man. That would be like a Minnesotan thing?
I mean, it doesn't have to be Minnesota-based. It could just be any sort of attraction you want to make here.
Man. I don't know. I think it would be kind of fun to make like a giant marshmallow or something. and have like a cool town, like themed town surrounding it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Having like meringue shops and like
Ooh.
cozy blanket stores, like just weird, super on the nose, marshmallowy themed things. Just because I like marshmallows. I don't know. I feel like it would be a good thing in the Midwest too, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I'll probably regret saying that, but I think, yeah, off the cuff, I'm going to make a giant marshmallow town. What about you?
My first thought was rocks. So I was trying to envision some sort of attraction that would incorporate the different types of like natural stones we have in Minnesota. So, you know, you have like the agates from Lake Superior and sea glass and things like that. I don't know if it would be something kind of where you can do those fun like panning for gold things where you can get your own precious stones and things that would be sourced from those types of areas, or if it would be more of like an educational type of museum where you could then purchase some of the stones in like the gift shop. I don't know. It would just be themed around rocks.
Yeah.
I like rocks.
I like that too.
So yeah.
I approve.
If you would like to send us questions, you can do so by sliding into our DMs, emailing us, and we also have a form in the show notes that you can fill out if you want to submit questions that way as well. We love to hear from you, and there's a couple of ways you can reach out to us. You can email us at yeoldecrimepodcast@gmail.com, where you can send us story ideas, share any spooky stories you may have, fun gifts, or even just to say hello.
You can also reach out to us via snail mail. Remember mail? Our mailing address is Ye Olde Crime Podcast, P.O. Box 341, Wyoming, Minnesota 55092. Fun fact, we like to send out thank you cards with fun stickers you can't get at our shop, so it's worth the cost of a stamp.
What is something good you'd like to share?
Something good I'd like to share.
Besides that you got to see me.
I know.
Which I know is what you were going to say.
Well, actually, It kind of is like having the family time, getting to see our aunt from Canada again today, and seeing you and seeing mom and dad and Boo getting bigger. And it's always a good day when I bring Willie and Chief, my two dogs, to my parents' house because they just love going to that house all the time. So just seeing them being so happy in that space is kind of enough too. It's just one of my favorite things. When we like they know what it means when we say we're gonna go to Nana and Papa house. Going to Nana and Papa house? They'd like lose their minds. They know exactly where they're going. So I don't know. I think today's my good thing this week. It was a good day. How about you?
The Girl Scout troop that I lead is working to earn their Bronze Award, which is an award that they earn by doing something to benefit the community at large, where they're fixing some sort of issue or they're doing something to enhance their community.
Okay.
So one thing they're doing is they are putting together a little free library that
Aw.
we want to install at a park in town. And we are also going to reach out to the park board and the city council to see if we can adopt that park.
Oh, nice. So you can just like kind of maintain the whole spot.
Yep. So we can kind of clean it up. It's got a little bridge that you can walk across that kind of goes over it's not really a ditch, but like a little like drainage ditch.
Mm-hmm.
And it needs to be resanded and restained. The girls want to paint it fun, bright colors, and they want to kind of clean up the flower beds that are there. There was talk about digging up we've got pea gravel in
Okay.
where the play equipment is. And for those that don't know, it's just really small stones,
Yeah.
larger than sand, but not like pebbles. And it's got like weeds and stuff growing in it. So they wanted to see if it's possible to like get rid of all that and maybe put in wood chips instead
Mm-hmm.
or something else that's a little bit more friendly and sustainable. This week they painted the little free library.
Cute.
And I will be assembling it. And
Good luck to you.
thank you. I get to use power tools supervised
Nice.
by my husband. So if I can't
Nice.
figure it out, he can help me. So I'm excited because they'll get to, speak in front of two different groups of adults. And at the end of the month, once we're cleared to install the little free library,
Mm-hmm.
we will have a ribbon cutting ceremony to kind of introduce it to the public when they get to earn their Bronze Award. So
Nice.
I'm very excited to have this happen. So I'm excited to see
Yeah.
them. And yeah, I think it'll be a great way to start this year of Girl Scouts.
Awesome.
And on that note, shall we?
Good show.
We wouldn't be here without support from listeners like you. If you're interested in supporting us financially, you can leave a one-time or monthly donation over on Buy Me a Coffee or our Venmo page. Links are in the show notes. And we make a point of reaching out to send you a thank you note and stickers to show our appreciation.
Want to show your support in a more concrete way? Pick up some Yield Crime merch over at our TeePublic shop. We shout out whenever there is a sale each month, and we work to make sure we're creating new designs and changing it up whenever possible. And hey, thanks for listening.
As always, I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Madison.
And we'll see you next time with another tale
As old as crime.